Now, good news for Victoria this morning with a relatively low number of new coronavirus cases and no deaths in the past 24 hours. It comes as Victorian health officials have been overwhelmed by the demand for testing in Shepparton in the north of the state, where 3 cases were identified. Reporter Nicole Asher joins us now from Melbourne. Nicole, g'day. So take us through the numbers.
So at the moment, Victorians' positivity seems to live or die on these numbers, and today seeing a low number 6 come through, people have a bit of a spring in their step. It's down from 7 yesterday, and it's brought the 14-day rolling average down to 8.9, which is the direction we want it to be going. It's still sitting at stable in regional Victoria at 0.6. Now, there are 125 cases active in Melbourne and 8 in regional Victoria, and the number of unknown cases has risen by 1 today to 15, but I think people are relieved to see it drop down to 6 today.
And Nicole, you're at the Premier's electorate office there, I understand. What's happened there?
That's right. So we came out here early this morning. Overnight, somebody has vandalised his electoral office down here in Noble Park. When we arrived this morning, there were some bricks down on the floor, and it appears that they've been thrown at the window. So the window has broken, and Sack Dan has been spray painted on the window in red paint. And it kind of, I think, is a little bit indicative of the rising pressure here in Victoria. The Premier is under pressure to kind of announce some easings of restrictions this Sunday, as Victorians had grown to expect that they'd see. But that is all dependent on that all-important 14-day rolling average staying low. And the Premier had said that no restrictions will be eased unless it drops below that 5 number, that 5 target. It's still sitting kind of closer to 10, so double that. So the Premier has been tempering expectations this week. It's in the face of the Federal Health Minister yesterday saying that, under his estimations, Melbourne's no longer a hotspot and so should be able to open up. So there are some growing tensions in the community here, Joe.
Yeah, and Daniel Andrews in those media conferences also said things like, well, 10 might become the new 5. So it'll be really interesting to see what happens with those restrictions over the coming week or so. And Nicole, how are people reacting to the call to get tested in Shepparton?
That's right. So we saw 3 cases up in Shepparton associated with that Chasden cluster, and people have really rallied. We saw lines stretching around the block yesterday as people those socially distanced lines that have become kind of famous over this pandemic, as people really took it seriously and went to get tested. And we're told that they overwhelmed testing facilities yesterday and people were turned away in the end. And we hear that people are back there this morning. We've heard tradies trying to get there before work because, everyone wants to do their part, it seems. Here's what we've heard from the ground earlier.
Just said that a little while ago that it might be 6 hours wait.
It's pretty crazy, but it's good that the communities came down and everyone's gone to get tested and doing the right thing, so it's a good sign.
Yeah, at least people take it serious and getting the test done, which is the most important thing, I guess. It's created a fair bit of mayhem with one person, so the concern is if people aren't getting tested like we are today, it could spread even further in a community.
Now to the COVID situation in New South Wales. Health authorities are urging people to come forward for COVID-19 testing after a spike in cases in Sydney's west and southwest. The numbers for New South Wales generally come out about 11 o'clock each morning, Australian Eastern Standard Daylight Time, so they haven't come out for today just yet. Reporter Alexia Atwood joins us now from Sydney. Alexia, g'day. So just take us through those latest numbers that came out from yesterday.
Hi, Joe. Well, 14 new cases in that last reporting period, and that has the government concerned that we are potentially on the brink of another seeding incident like we saw in July, where an infected person came across the border to the Crossroads Hotel at Casula, and that led to a greater outbreak. So what we're seeing here is quite concerning because we are up to 11 locally acquired cases. 9 of them are linked to 2 GPs who were practicing at a clinic in Lakemba, and that cluster has now grown to 12, and the source of it is still unknown. We're always concerned when we do see those mystery sources that we haven't got on top of them yet. The other 2 new cases are linked to another cluster at a private health clinic at Liverpool, and that cluster has actually grown to 10. And then on top of these cases, we do know that a man in his 70s has tested positive for coronavirus in Bargo, and so that's about 100 kilometres southwest of Sydney. So there is a bit of a testing blitz going on there as a result of that. We'll find out more about that situation, as you said, around 11 o'clock today. Now, just taking you through some really important health alerts. There's 2 health alerts for a tutoring services. One is at the Al Jabbar tutoring service at Auburn for people that were there last Thursday. Another is for ACE tutoring at Parramatta for people that were there on Saturday. And these people are all considered close contacts, so they're going to need to isolate for 14 days, regardless of whether they get a positive or negative coronavirus test. And then there's another health alert that's been issued for a Westfield at Mount Druitt, and for people that were there at a specific time frame on Monday, they'll need to monitor for symptoms.
And so, Alexia, what does this growing concern about what's been happening there in New South Wales over the past 48 hours mean for restrictions in the state?
Well, it basically means that the government is putting the brakes on in terms of announcing more restrictions. They had flagged that they were going to announce more restrictions for the wedding industry and easing of restrictions for the hospitality industry. They haven't pulled back on restrictions that they announced earlier this week, which was to have 500 people at a music event if it was seated, and also to drop the 4 square metre rule down for outdoor dining. So that's still in place, but the government basically says as a result of these concerning numbers that they're not willing to take any steps further and announce any more easing of restrictions.
Okay, Alexia Atwood there in Sydney.